Well, peace and blessings. How Hunter children to do this shit? The Queen Quet head from the body of the Gullah Geechee Nation. So glad he Hunter joined we one more again for zooming in on sustainability. Oh, and you know what? We to celebrate who we be, and we to celebrate the woman and staying healthy this year day. So we're so glad that we had this opportunity one more again for Hunter children for join we. And we gonna do what we always do every Wednesday. First, for all of we ancestors who been the what land we, but be who we be and things like that. That cross over into the next realm. Let we take a moment of silence. Ashe, ashe, ashe. And this your day and thing like that. I want to dedicate this your program to somebody I've had the chance to work with for a little bit at the MUSC. And I've been Ida Spruill, who done cross over into the realm of the ancestors. And we want to just dedicate this your program to she. Because we know she was spending life or try to get we people and thing healthy, especially the woman and thing like that. So you know, during March, I think this is your time for the woman month. This the woman her story month. It's the Black her story month and thing like that. So I've been a crack with teeth with plenty different women this year month and thing like that. So that all of you want get we stuff together. Because we can't take care of the rest of people if we can't take care of yourself. Okay then. So we have to take care of ourselves, ladies, before we can take care of others. If you have ever taken a plane anywhere, you know that after they close the doors of the plane, they start to give you instructions. First, they tell you turn your phone off because they want your undivided attention. The next thing is they make sure you're strapped in. And after you're strapped in, they let you know in the event that the plane is going to go down, a mask is going to fall. It's going to have oxygen coming through the mask. You put the mask on your face first before you help anybody else on the plane. Well, in real life, we as women have to learn how to put the mask on our face, not the makeup mask, because we good at that. Not the makeup mask on your face first, but the oxygen mask, the thing that helps you to breathe in and helps you to stay strong, the thing that is going to bring life into your body. We have to learn to put the mask on first, you see? And so as ladies, more often not, a lot of us are moms. So your first inclination is not to put the mask on you first, it's to help the baby first, right? But have you ever been ill? You ever didn't feel well? And you had that inclination to help, but your body was fighting you? It wouldn't let you get up and do what you would naturally do? I think all the ladies out there probably shaking their head right now, right? You've experienced that at least one time in life. Well, imagine having a condition that consistently brought you that kind of feeling at times. That kind of just, you weren't sure what it what was happening, but these different ailments came upon you and you would go to get it checked out, right? And one doctor will tell you one thing, give you something, you try it, still didn't work. You go to another doctor, they give you a whole different diagnosis. You try something with a prescription, it doesn't work. Then you might decide to try to be a little bit more healthy. So you change your diet, you change your exercise. A lot of times you need to change the people in your life too, but that's another subject for another time. And you start wondering, what is going on with me? Unfortunately, a lot of women have gone through that cycle for years because their immune system was what was fighting them back. It wasn't functioning the way it's supposed to function. And it seemed to be on automatic pilot, doing whatever it wanted to do, but not what we needed it to do. So it's been interesting over the years that I've had the opportunity to really engage with people in my home state of South Carolina, at the Medical University of South Carolina, The first time I engaged with them was because I was invited as a keynote speaker for a mental health conference to focus on the mental health in our communities and how the doctors could find more culturally sensitive ways to engage with their patients and that they could become more culturally competent. Well, from that time forward, I started engaging in a number of different things that we call now the Sea Island Families Project. That there are a number of different studies that have gone on specifically related to the Gullah Geechee community here on the Sea Islands. Now, somewhere along that journey, more than a decade ago, I learned about lupus. And I got to meet someone that we call Dr. Di, but not because that's what happens when you see her. That's because her name is Diane, okay? Dr. Diane Caiman, who is part of our Gullah Geechee Sustainability Think Tank. And she has come out numerous times to community gatherings to educate our people, not just about lupus and what it is, but also what the cause of it is. It's considered an autoimmune deficiency. Now, many of us only think of that if we think of AIDS, autoimmune. We started hearing that in that regard, right? But we didn't realize that there are numerous diseases that are out there that have to do with your autoimmune system. So that's what I'm saying. It's like your immune system goes on autopilot. It starts doing things it wasn't designed to do, or is not doing what it was designed to do properly. So I was really curious about how many things fall under this category and what does that really mean? So I know that over the years, speaking to Dr. Caiman and us working together on the Sea Island Families Project Committee, this discussion of autoimmune diseases has come up and what the causes could be. Are they environmental? Are they dietary? Is it hereditary? So I wanted to make sure that all of you who view Gullah Geechee TV, you've seen her on there in the past. If you've come to our Coastal Cultures Conference that the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition and the Gullah Geechee Sustainability Think Tank sponsor annually, you've heard her present. But I wanted to learn an update about what else is happening because, wow, can you imagine an autoimmune disease in the midst of a pandemic? Wow. You talk about some things to think about. You talk about something that might make you not get up out the bed just from stress, just from concern, just from worry, right? When I said that you want to get up and you want to do something, but your body just seemed to be working against you right now. So, ladies, it's time for us to really get healthy. A lot of us talk about being wealthy, but your first investment toward wealth is your health. That is the thing. So, Dr. Diane Caiman, come on in. We want to hear more about what it is that you all have been doing all these years at MUSC to help our ladies get more healthy. How on to be, Dr. Di? What's going on?
Thank you, Queen Quet. That was a great introduction to the topic, and I appreciate you too, the words about Ida, who we all miss so much. But I've had the tremendous pleasure of working with you since, gosh, I mean, I started this work in 2003, so at least that long that we've been in partnership. So
almost 20 years then, almost 2 decades. Yeah, almost 2 decades. Yeah. So I know in that length of time, you taught me a lot about lupus, and you've worked a lot with coming to our events and getting people to go ahead and just come to you and get tested and things like that. And I know, like I said, I learned about this whole thing, this whole category of things called autoimmune diseases. Why don't you explain to the audience, what is that? I mean, what does that mean if someone says to you, you have an autoimmune disease?
Yeah, because it's so counterintuitive. We think about our immune systems protecting us, but
Right.
in an autoimmune disease, and we don't completely understand why this happens, but the immune system overreacts. So instead of just fighting off infections and things that are foreign to the body, the immune system starts thinking that your own healthy tissues and proteins in your body are, are foreign. They need to be attacked. And so the immune system turns against healthy cells. And that can lead to inflammation, and that inflammation can lead to damage. And whenever there's damage anywhere in the body, that could be pain and things that are, really hard to reverse and get a handle on. So, common autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, that affects primarily the joints.
Yeah.
You think about multiple sclerosis affects mainly the nerves and the brain. There's even type 1 diabetes. That's an autoimmune disease of the pancreas that causes diabetes. But lupus can actually attack any part of the body. It's the one autoimmune disease that is truly head to toe, and sometimes multiple organs and different tissues are involved in the body. And we think the reason for that is because the immune system is actually attacking DNA, and we have, DNA throughout the body. So, it makes it like, really, really hard to figure out, what is the switch that's getting flipped where your immune system would go so haywire. And unfortunately, we have not yet found a cure. We haven't found a way to flip that switch back, but we have treatments. They're not ideal, but a lot of our research is on trying to prevent it from happening in the first place, trying to figure out what it is that's causing lupus. And we think that if we figure out lupus, that we could come a long way to helping other autoimmune diseases too, since lupus is such a prototype of autoimmunity.
Interesting. So you see, I dressed for the occasion so that I
Yes.
can come help you out. I dressed for it. I got my medical gear on today, right?
Oh yeah, and purple's also the lupus
And
color.
that's the lupus color, yeah. And yeah, and it's interesting. I got on my lupus swag from you over the years with my purple. I was like, oh, thank you so much. I was,
Love the purple swag.
yes. And so it's so interesting because my teachers wanted me to be like you, right? They wanted me to be a medical doctor. But after I went to Clemson for a couple of summers and checked things out, I was like, nope, not for me. Because I didn't want to be amongst, pain and suffering. I thought even, I'll deliver babies. And then somebody had to remind me, babies die too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Nope, don't want to do it. So I decided to go into computer science. But I'm always still intrigued by medicine. That's why I loved being able to sit with you and the late Dr. Ida Spruill, God bless the dead, and our whole team, to talk about the participatory research you all do through MUSC. And I know, like you just mentioned with lupus, it's been intriguing to me what the cohort that you established through trying to figure out what that trigger is, like you said, with lupus. But it's also interesting to me that you mentioned another thing that I know you all continue to study about, especially the Black population, the Gullah Geechee population in particular, is diabetes. And I never hear people talk about what you just said, that is part of that autoimmune class of diseases. So would you elaborate a little bit more on the type of diabetes you mentioned versus other types of diabetes? Are they all under autoimmunes or not?
Yeah, that's a good question. They're not all autoimmune, although they all have impact on the immune system. When your sugars, not well controlled, the immune system doesn't function properly. But the autoimmune type usually affects young kids and young adults. And that's the kind where the islet cells in the pancreas get attacked by the immune system. So there's no insulin being made.
Wow.
And so they're completely dependent on insulin, whereas a lot of the later onset diabetes, it's a more of a gradual, like needing more insulin, but it's not necessarily that it's completely dependent on the insulin.
On the insulin. Okay. And so we're talking about type 1 in the case of the autoimmune. And then we have the other type 2, which is kind of rampant
Yeah.
amongst the Black community. So that's interesting. And I know that there have been studies to try to parallel native Gullah Geechees and what happens with our health to West Africa. And they've done it with the Sugar Project at MUSC. I
Mhm.
think y'all have done some of that with diabetes screening. What about with lupus? Have you also been looking at our West African kinfolk to see, or any parts of Africa to see how lupus, or is lupus really prevalent anywhere there as well?
Yeah, yeah. So I guess to take a step, a journey back a little bit. So when I moved from Kansas to South Carolina, I mean, there's a huge, a noticeable difference in how many people had lupus. I mean, so we see clusters of people with lupus, and we know people of African descent living outside of Africa
Yeah.
have a lot,
Prevalence of it.
enormously higher risk of lupus. And
Mm,
so, in Kansas, I really didn't. My roommate in college had lupus,
is that
and that's how I got interested in it. But
okay?
we weren't seeing, hundreds and thousands of people with lupus there. And then moving here, um,
Everything.
actually, how I first met Ida was my mentor at the time, Dr. Gary Gilkison, and we
Mm,
were interested in looking at lupus and what are the genetic and environmental risks. And
mhm.
we knew in our clinics, like some of the most severe, cases of lupus, people really suffering from it were even children and young people who were Gullah Geechee
Wow.
heritage. And so we knew there was some connection there just by
Okay.
pure numbers.
Right.
And so Ida Spruill was working with Project Sugar, leading
Yeah.
Project Sugar. So we went to her, this was like in early 2000, and asked about maybe also studying lupus along with the diabetes studies that they were doing. And lo and behold, there was a woman with lupus, and a daughter of someone with lupus, who was on the Project Sugar research team from the community.
Uh-huh.
There was already a big interest in it. So they welcomed us with open arms to
Right.
study lupus
Find out.
alongside diabetes. And so they were already partnering with Sierra Leone to
Okay.
look at the community impacts here of diabetes, and then the fact that there really wasn't much diabetes seen in Sierra
Yeah.
Leone.
Okay.
Same story with lupus. There's just really not there's a lot of infections and other health issues in
Yeah.
Sierra Leone, but the young African women are not impacted by lupus like they are here. So
Interesting.
that would make you think that it's something really environmental,
Right.
because the genetics, would be shared. A lot of, the genetic risk would still be there,
Right.
so it must be something environmental here.
Yeah, and
And
then
so-
dietary as well, right? Because
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, in more westernized societies and westernized Gullah Geechee families who don't live off the land, that they buy their food in boxes from the
Yeah.
store,
Yeah.
then we have issues of, are you getting proper nutrition? What is that stuff you're eating? I mean, the FDA calls it food like substances and things like that versus food. So, I mean, that's an issue where I know the people I've talked to from Sierra Leone, a lot, like there are different beauty standards in different parts of the world, right? And so in Sierra Leone, the people tend to be thin. Like a lot of people tend to be very
Mhm.
thin. Where if we go to where some more of our cousins are from Senegal or from Ghana, it seemed to be more of a beauty standard to be thicker, more robust as a person, because that shows that you have nutrition, you have food, that you have richness, that you have abundance. Just like with having children, having lots of children is seen as a blessing, right? So, have you looked at any of the other countries in West Africa in relationship to diabetes, in relationship to lupus? And then when you do, Are you separating out here in the Gullah Geechee Nation and over there? Are you separating out those in the rural environments and out more in the villages versus those in the urbanized environments? Because when we talk about it being environmental, then I think those things would be necessary in those kind of studies. So have you all been doing that as well?
Yeah, it's very, very difficult, but absolutely we are trying to do that research. And it's the thing that makes it challenging is there's so many things you're exposed to over a lifetime, and we don't think that it's necessarily that exposure, whether it's processed foods or foods that are contaminated with different things that might be pro-inflammatory, or cause more of an autoimmune getting revved up.
Mhm.
We don't think that not it's like one time you get exposed to that and then all of a sudden you
Oh
get
yeah,
an
and then
autoimmune
your whole
disease.
life you got
It's
this,
a,
right?
yeah,
Exactly.
like accumulation. So it's
Yeah.
very, very difficult to
To
gather all
narrow
that
it down.
information. But
Yeah.
to anyone listening who's been a part of our research studies, and we invite in patients who have lupus, but we actually are really excited to talk to family members who don't have lupus because we
Mhm.
know that they're at risk, and we would like to, as much as possible, like be able to study that window of opportunity before the disease develops so
Right.
that we'll know what to advise people. But people who have been in our studies know, like, we'll spend hours, going through questions of like what
Mhm.
occupations you've had, what have you consumed, what kind of diet do you tend to follow. It's hard to get at every single thing. Some of the things we have blood markers we can look at,
Mhm.
but not
Mhm.
everything. Sometimes we have to just ask a lot of questions.
Right.
And there's been signals,
Mhm.
like we know certain occupations, certain exposures tend to bump your risk up a little bit, but we haven't found that, like, you know, answer
Consistent
to the
thing. Yeah.
quest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you still have a theory, but you haven't gotten there yet to
Yes.
that point. So
Yep.
let me ask this, because I know as you continue to talk about the autoimmune being an inflammatory kind of thing, your
Mhm.
body becomes inflamed and then your body feels like, hey, what is this stuff? So it
Yeah.
starts attacking itself just about. What about gout? Is gout something? Because as I'm thinking about here and even in West Africa, how much seafood we love to consume, especially
Uh-huh.
amongst Gullah Geechees. And then folks talk about their feet are swollen, right? And they're hurting and this and that. So what about gout? Is gout an autoimmune disease?
Gout is not autoimmune, but it's definitely inflammatory, and it's incredibly painful and awful for somebody to go through, but it's caused by a different chain of events.
Okay.
So it's caused by uric acid being high, and sometimes somebody with lupus can be at higher risk of getting gout if they get kidney damage from their lupus. But
Interesting.
usually, so we follow 1,600 or so people with lupus at MUSC. The
Mhm.
vast majority women, and the majority are pretty young. So the
When
average
you say
age is
young, how, yeah,
early
what is
20s.
the average age? Is how old?
Yeah, like adolescents, early 20s is usually when people are
Wow.
diagnosed.
Okay.
And they've actually often had symptoms for years prior
Mhm.
to diagnosis, which is another reason I like to talk to folks as much as possible to get the word out what to look for, so that people can ask their doctor to get tested. But
Right.
anyway, you asked about gout.
Oh, no,
it's
that was
it's
perfect though. That was perfect.
it,
No, because you did say so. Gout is not an autoimmune disease.
It's
It
not
is.
autoimmune. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it tends to be a little bit older people that develop it, but not
Okay.
always. A young person, especially with kidney disease, can get it too.
They could end up with it. So let's go back to that, because that's interesting, because this is the first time I've really talked to you about that aspect, that some lupus patients, like you said earlier, lupus could just attack anywhere just about, and we're hearing the same thing about the whole pandemic and the
Mhm.
coronavirus. So I'm sure people are really concerned, because now we also are seeing so many people in the Gullah Geechee Nation on dialysis. So when
Mhm.
you talk about the kidney issue, how does that play a part? How does that come into play? And how do you know it's lupus and not something else that caused the kidney failure. And what are those things that we as women need to be aware of that, like you said, are signs, are symptoms that we would say, oh, wait a minute, I need you not only to just test these things like blood pressure and all of that and take a blood test, but I need to specifically be tested for lupus. And what would that entail?
Yeah, because this comes up all the time that people are getting diagnosed. People are getting diagnosed, but they're getting diagnosed later than, if you could, take a time machine back, you would love for them to have gotten the diagnosis a year, even sometimes 4 or 5 years earlier, because the earlier you start treating, the better. So some of the difficulty though, and I make it sound easy, but the hard thing is the first symptoms of lupus are often very similar to very common things like viral illnesses. It's things like rashes or low-grade fevers,
Wow.
fatigue and joint aches. I mean, that could be a lot of
That
things.
all sounds like what they're telling us
I
coronavirus.
know, I know. And, it could be a lot of things. And, I guess what I would say is someone who spends 24/7, thinking lupus, lupus is, it can't hurt to ask to get at least the screening test done if you don't have another real obvious reason. If everyone in the family's been sick and you're coughing and you have a fever, yeah, it's probably not lupus. But if you keep getting, these fevers and these unexplained symptoms, like I said, the very most common things that people start with are rashes, usually in sun exposed areas.
Okay.
So there's something called the butterfly rash, where
Yeah.
we see it on the nose and cheeks. So it
Yeah.
tends to be the areas where the sun shines. And then people can lose chunks of hair, so
Really?
hair falling out without another reason.
Wow.
Sometimes there's chemicals too that can cause
Yeah.
hair to get damaged, but this is like
Clump.
losing,
So like
clumps.
clumps of it just suddenly coming out. Wow.
And,
Okay.
in the setting of like maybe lymph node swelling and fatigue, and then the joint swelling is common too. So
Mhm.
it's different than, osteoarthritis is what people get with like wear and tear and damage to the joints over time.
Mhm.
This is more like small joints of the hands and feet, where you'll see, swelling and a lot of stiffness in the morning. So you'll wake up in the morning and have like half an hour before your joints are really moving well.
Wow.
If that's happening,
Yeah. You need to
I
get
wouldn't
screened.
just chalk it up to, oh, I was really working hard in the kitchen the day before. Like I would say,
Get
that
screened
needs to be checked
for lupus.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. So now, so what would you recommend if a person is in South Carolina? I know they could go ahead onto your website, right? And then find the lupus study and they could go ahead. Are you still accepting people to
Oh
come
yeah.
to the cohort? Yeah. And they could just contact you. So
Yeah.
what did they have to do? Did they have to pay? What did they have to do if they wanted to come there to MUSC and get screened?
Yeah, just reach out to us, and we usually talk to people first over the phone to try to figure out what's going on. Are you someone who definitely has lupus? Do you need to come into the clinic and get treated? Which is different than coming into a study where we're asking you a bunch of questions and doing tests. So if you're someone who doesn't have a diagnosis and you maybe have a family member with lupus, that would be one study that we're doing. It's an observational study where we ask a lot of questions about diet and different environmental exposures. And then we do the autoantibody testing. So those test results would really help us be able to tell them like, oh, looks great, reassuring, all the antibodies are negative, nothing that looks like autoimmune disease in your system, or oh, there's some concerning antibodies here. We need to either continue the workup for a diagnosis, or sometimes we can make the diagnosis. There have been people who've come in, just aware that they had symptoms, but never been told really that they had any kind of immune system issue. And we were able with the testing to make the diagnosis and start treatment.
Nice.
So it's not always, real clear cut, because every single individual with lupus presents slightly differently. So even in our clinics, like each person might have different symptoms. They might be on slightly different treatment regimens. But you mentioned the pandemic.
Right.
We would all love to forget
Went
this
back there.
part of it, but you remember the whole Plaquenil,
Oh,
hydroxychloroquine.
yes. Oh, my.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's actually our number one best initial treatment for lupus.
Lupus.
Like everyone with lupus really should be on at a minimum. Usually that's not enough to completely treat it, but it's one of our better treatments that kind of helps keep the immune system even keel, which is why they thought it would work in COVID. Because
Got
COVID, you get damage from COVID from the immune system going crazy.
right.
So when everyone was hoarding, the
I
Plaquenil,
remember you sent me an email
weren't releasing
like,
it.
"Are y'all okay?" And you were like, "If they stop hoarding this
Yeah,
hydroxychloroquine, we'd be better. Our lupus patients need it." I was, oh my God.
it was
Yeah,
awful. Patients were just panicked. We were all panicked
I'm sure.
because people were running out and not able to get it.
Get
But
it.
luckily,
It's
that's
okay. People are
that's
back
just a
back a
bad
little bit
memory now.
normalized. Yeah. So, I'm glad you went back there to talking about the coronavirus in particular, because you used the word antibodies,
Mhm.
even in regard to lupus. Why don't you explain to my audience what is an antibody? Because everybody's heard this word now, but I don't think people know what it means. So explain, what is an antibody?
Yeah, so our immune system has a lot of different pathways it can take to fight off infection. So there's ways that we fight infection just by making things called cytokines, which are like little proteins that directly attack the bacteria or virus or whatever it might be. But then there's also these special immune cells, the B cells or B lymphocytes, and they can develop a memory for infections that you've seen in the past and cleared, or a memory to something you've been vaccinated against.
Oh,
So, like, let's say, let's take COVID, for
yeah,
example,
because
to
mumps
throw
or
in that
measles.
topic.
I was gonna say mumps or measles just to put something else.
that,
But you
that
said
would
vaccine.
also be
Go ahead.
appropriate.
Yeah.
But yeah, so COVID, we know that there's a part of the coronavirus that your immune system, if it makes the antibodies against it, you can clear it out of your system. It's the same kind of reason. There was a monoclonal antibody that some people were getting to treat
Oh, yeah.
them before they went into the hospital.
Yeah.
That was an antibody. It's kind of like a little or Y shaped, actually, a little Y shaped protein that these B cells make because they have a memory of responding to something similar in the past. And they start churning out these like little proteins that bind to the infection and attack it.
Okay.
Once the little antibodies bind, it sets off this chain reaction, where the immune system knows to kill whatever that
Kill
is.
that
So,
thing and not kill everything else, like in
right.
the case of the autoimmune.
Do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But you don't want those antibodies to stick to your DNA. So that's the problem with lupus, is that these antibodies get made and they stick in places where you don't want them.
Ah.
They get stuck in the kidney, they get stuck in the skin, they can
Mm.
even go to the brain, the heart, the lung. So you can
Wow.
imagine the problems that can cause.
Yeah. So is that how come some of the lupus patients have kidney disease and end up on dialysis? Because that's what happened?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, unfortunately, over half, it's about 50 to 60% of patients with lupus develop some kidney problems,
That right.
particularly in Black patients. Yeah,
Mhm.
we see a lot more of that.
Wow.
It's not real easy to treat. We have treatments for it, and we got some good news. Some some actual good news out of 2020
That's
is
good.
that
We
two of
love good
the,
news. We love good news. Go ahead.
I know, we didn't get much good news, but some good news was two treatments for lupus nephritis, which is the name for the kidney attack that lupus
Mhm.
can cause,
Mhm.
were FDA approved.
Oh,
So that
great.
was like a
Yeah,
hallelujah moment, because we
absolutely.
really didn't have ways to treat it
Yeah,
until.
before. Okay. And
Yeah.
see, and the news was so inundated with coronavirus, we
Oh,
didn't hear about that.
I
So that's
know.
great.
I know.
Yeah.
But we were in a, all the loopologists were having little
Lupus.
parties
I know that's
in our
right. I know y'all went with your
offices.
purple on, y'all were out there doing your thing. So
Yes.
yes, tell me this. I know there's a lupus awareness month so that
Yep.
more people can become more aware of all of what we're talking about. When does that take place?
It's in May. So we have
Awesome.
some things planned. There's a walk that had to be virtual last year, which is not very fun to have a virtual walk.
Wow. Right.
But yeah, there's a walk coming up. We'll have a lot of things on our website
Mhm.
for Lupus Awareness Month. We also put together a education day. It's again
Oh.
usually in May. We
Mhm.
moved it and made it virtual last September.
Okay.
But yeah, we have a lot of our docs and patients give testimonials and talk as well, all a part of that program. So yeah, anyone who's interested, I'll give you the
Yeah, go
website.
ahead. Tell them the website. So some of the folks who are listening, they can go ahead and write it down.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then we also will end up dropping it in the chat and on the screen for them. Go ahead.
It's well, www.musc.edu. And then there's a forward slash lupus, Lupus.
That's easy enough. That's
It's
easy
a
enough.
shortcut because MUSC's websites are always these really long
Long
things.
ones, yes, even the name, right? That's why y'all ended up just being MUSC, because otherwise, Medical University of South Carolina, so it's long. But us in South Carolina, we like to get it shortened. We'll give you a nickname in a minute. So definitely, it's wonderful to know the work that you continue to do, in the midst of all this, because like we're saying with the news cycle, you didn't really hear, and people got so inundated also with so many virtual meetings and virtual this and virtual that, and trying to keep up with what's going on with coronavirus. We forget there are other things out here that people get ill from and are ill with, that we have to still find cures for, like lupus. So with lupus and making people more aware of not only lupus, but other autoimmune diseases, how do you all deal with that? Do you solely focus on lupus, or are you an autoimmune specialist? How does that work at MUSC and mostly in the medical fields? Do people just specialize in lupus, or they just specialize in autoimmune and then you deal with all these different things we've been talking about?
So kind of related to what I was saying, being from Kansas, we didn't see lupus, but we saw a lot of rheumatoid arthritis.
Mhm.
And so in different areas of the world, you see different autoimmune diseases more commonly. The specialist that treats, all of the autoimmune diseases is a rheumatologist. And
Okay.
so you basically you go to medical school, you go to residency in internal medicine or in pediatrics. There's also pediatric rheumatologists. And then you do fellowship training in rheumatology. And so those are, I'm in a community of rheumatologists who focus on autoimmune diseases.
Uh-huh.
But then kind of depending on where you are, like, I was very passionate about lupus and wanted to make a difference in lupus. So I sought out, a center like MUSC where there was already a lot of basic science research and translational research. And they
Mhm.
actually needed more clinical research working with people.
Uh-huh.
And so it was like a perfect match. And now we've recruited, lots of clinical lupus, rheumatologists. We see other autoimmune diseases for sure,
Yeah.
and sometimes we're sent, people to talk with in the clinic to figure out, do you have lupus or do you have some cousin of lupus, like
Mm,
Sjogren's syndrome,
mm.
scleroderma? These are other autoimmune
Other
diseases that
autoimmune
can
disease.
look like lupus sometimes or
Mhm.
have a lot of crossover.
Right.
So that's, I would say any rheumatologist is going to have a comfort with, diagnosing and treating lupus, but
Mhm.
especially here, we have a whole center, just focused on
Just
lupus
focus
because
on
of
lupus.
the high impact it's had on the community, the Black community.
Yeah. So let's talk about that too, because it's funny that you said, yeah, the ones that deal with people, automatically when people think about medical doctors, oh, well, don't they all deal with people?
Yeah,
And it's like, so it was funny to me when you said that. I'm sure somebody went, what? Like, well, how do they doctors and they're not dealing with people alive or dead? Shouldn't they be dealing with people? And I know what you meant, because when you went on say clinical, because you're talking to the people and you're getting
yeah, yeah.
information. But I just wanted you to elaborate a little bit more on that, because I just know somebody in my audience just went, what? They're not dealing with people? What is going on?
Yeah. Yeah, luckily all of my day is spent with people, but yes, I have partners in this who have mice with lupus, and they study mice, and that's one way to try to figure
In the
out
laboratory. So those are the ones in the laboratory versus the
the
clinic.
laboratory. And
Yeah.
then other people who, they're either physicians, scientists, but they work with the blood and the urine and the stool samples, and all the things that we collect as part of the study visit.
Mhm.
They're studying all that under the microscope and using their fancy machines, to
Yeah.
get pictures of it. And so, yeah, it takes all of us,
Right.
because each person has a little special niche that
Specialty.
they
Yeah.
fill. Yeah. We have, and also we have epidemiologists on our team,
Yes. Of medical.
statisticians, and
Right. Yeah. So you have all these pieces, just like the body, right? It's made up
right,
of all
right.
these different parts, and y'all come together still seeking an answer to
Absolutely.
how is this caused, and therefore how can we prevent it? And I know for the Black community, this being Women's Her Story Month, but also Black Women's Her Story Month, it's really critical, because you said several times this lupus in particular. And I know an array of autoimmune diseases. You've only mentioned less than 10 so far in our discussion,
Yeah.
but there's a whole plethora of them. And lupus is one that has a major impact on the Black community. But am I right in saying that Black women have the highest incidence of lupus out of all the people? Is that the case?
Yeah, yeah. So Blacks are about 5 times more likely to get lupus, and women are about 9 to 10 times more likely to get lupus. So
Wow.
if you're a Black woman, it's about 1 out of 250 who will get lupus in her lifetime, which
Mhm.
is completely unacceptable. That's
Right.
too
It
many
is.
people. Yeah, it makes it not such a rare disease,
Right.
for sure. Yeah.
Right. And even though you say it makes it not such a rare disease, there's so many people who've never heard of lupus.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
crazy. Yeah.
it is. It really is crazy. But again, we know that at one point back in the 80s and early 90s, there was a group called the Black Women's Healthcare Crisis. And it was because of exactly what you said. This is something that is impacting a tremendous amount of Black women. But people aren't fully aware of it because it doesn't have the kind of money back in it in the campaigns as like cancer and things like that. So people don't hear of it every single day.
Mhm.
It takes finding out a family member, a friend, somebody that's an associate works on this or is trying to help a family member overcome this, that we learn of this term lupus. And so what kind of things can people do that are listening today? And maybe some of them are saying, yeah, I'm glad y'all talk about it, because I never heard of lupus before. And God forbid anybody in my family or community has lupus. But then how do they know to talk about it if lupus can attack so many different places in the body and get misdiagnosed? Because the Black Women's Healthcare Crisis Group, that was the focus, that Black women's health is not prioritized in America. It's not something spoken of. It's not put on the top of the priority list, you know? And so the diseases that generally impact Black women seem to kind of take the back seat. They don't get that funding. They don't get those commercials and the push about awareness. Like every May, all of us should be wearing purple. Like how we go around for breast cancer awareness month and we wear pink. We all should be wearing this. We all should be being able to tell people why we're doing it. What do you think about this? I mean, is there a special initiative that you know of? Because the Black Women's Healthcare Crisis Group, I've looked them up. We used to support them with an organization I had years ago. And it seems like that group, for funding reasons, doesn't exist now. So is there any new initiative to really push this to help Black women be more aware of that there is the existence of these autoimmune diseases, including lupus, and that they are being attacked on this level, like you're saying, with the highest incidence of getting it? But then what can they do? What kind of questions can they ask to say, well, I want to make sure I'm getting the right diagnosis? Because that's always the problem. And like I said at the beginning of the show, then you're going around kind of like the woman with the issue of blood in the Bible. You're going for years and years and spending money and money that you don't even have, but people to tell you is something that's not even it. And all that time, maybe a lupus screening could have given them an answer and given them something that could help try to alleviate some of the problems.
Yeah, because the screening test is not hard. You know, there's an ANA, anti-nuclear antibody test that, we feel like, we're always trying to talk to primary care doctors and, even starting with medical students and PA students and really stressing, think about lupus, think about lupus, if anything, just to do the screening and rule it out. But, even doing that in little pockets around the country, around the world, it's not enough. I mean, it still just gets drowned out in, all of these other, even important diseases. But, sometimes it takes a celebrity or a spokesperson, to be on TV talking about it to really get people thinking about it. And we noticed after Selena Gomez talked about her kidney transplant, there was a surge of people coming in, to get symptoms evaluated.
Is that right?
But but now, now you don't really hear about it as much anymore. And because not that I want.
Was it Toni Braxton also?
Lupus,
right? That she had lupus after dealing with a number of other, again, diagnosis of different things, but found out she had lupus. I mean, did that help people also start coming in and get screened?
It does. Yeah, and I don't wish lupus on anybody, let alone a celebrity. But when they're willing to talk about it, it does really help. Because you can only do so much in your little region, to talk to community folks. There are important projects though going on with the historically Black colleges and universities.
HBCU.
Edith Williams is doing. So Dr. Williams has a program to get education out there and doing focus groups with Black students who are, in the age range where a lot of times we see the first symptoms showing up. So, so she's doing that in South Carolina. Hopefully there's other people,
spread that. Yeah, because we're working with some other groups now that work with a whole series of HBCUs, and I'm on the International Human Rights Association for American Minorities. So if Dr. Williams and I could reconnect, because it's been a little while since I've spoken to her, but if we could reconnect, I'd love to connect her with our HBCU network and see if this isn't an initiative we could take on as well from Iran, because like you said, I mean, we need to make this happen, not just in our little local communities, but even in the national and the international level. We have to continue to talk about this, and especially we talk about Black women and health crisis. I don't know if you saw Patient Safety magazine. Do you read that magazine at all?
I don't know. What did they have?
I have to get you a copy because there is a very long article that they did with me about patient safety and what we could do better to engage, so-called, as they say, BIPOC communities. And I was not only honored to be asked to do it, but a lot of times these interviews, they ask you and they keep you on the phone for over an hour, and the interview is like a paragraph. Half a page, and so when they actually sent the layout, and it was multiple pages in this
Oh,
magazine
that's great.
and a
Yeah.
gorgeous layout. And then Serena Williams was embedded in one of the pages. I was like, forget reading about me. Serena Williams in the article, and I'm like, I'm all happy and stuff. And they're like, not forget about reading about you, Queen, quick, because I'm going to be loving reading about you, But no, the whole celebrity thing that you were saying, I
Yeah.
know that she went through her own things and was trying to bring and shed more light to it as well about the Black women's healthcare crisis, the situation that if you're pregnant as a Black woman, you don't get the same level of care that other women get, and those kind of things. So it's on so many levels, there's so many fronts to fight. It kind of reminds me of lupus, like you're saying,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's every part of the body. I mean, your mind, your body, your spirit, everything about your being is getting attacked with inequality, injustice. And that patient safety article addresses that. So I'll make sure to send you a link, but I have a hard copy I'll hold on to for you. Because I think you'll appreciate it, that I'll send you a link to it as well so you could share it
Wonderful.
around MUSC, because I think it's so important for us as community members to work with you all in the medical field so that we can share knowledge and information. Like you said with the cohorts, you have to talk to your patients. We got to engage as people so that we get to the point of getting the testing, which leads to the scientific data that the other lab folks, can sit in there and then look in the petri dishes at it. But we need to talk and dialogue because we need to know, it's our life ways. Is it the food? Is it the water? Is it the lack of drinking the water? Is it contaminated stuff that we're ingesting? Is it in our air? These are all critical things. So tell us on that note, how does the environment impact the immune system? Does it? And does it have any, does it do anything in regard to autoimmune diseases or not?
Yeah, absolutely does. I know you're familiar with Pat Fair, the dolphin lady,
Absolutely.
Dr. Fair's work with
Yes.
the dolphins who consume,
They consume
the
our
same,
fish, the
yes, yeah,
Gullah-Geechees eat. So I
compete
never
for the
forget the
fish.
dolphins. They're eating up the damn pond. We fish something like that. Yes, I know about it.
So, I mean, it's really tough because fish is such a healthy source of protein and nutrition, but at the same time, when the water has contamination from dumping of all of the fluorinated compounds, the
Yeah.
persistent organic pollutants that were on fabric protectants and flame retardants, when that all gets dumped in the water and then it bioaccumulates up the food chain, when the dolphins are eating it, they're getting sick with immune system diseases. And you got to wonder about human health effects too. And so we did, we have ongoing studies looking at that, but we know that some of those compounds, when they're in high levels, can affect the immune system. I mean, that's just a fact. And of course, the EPA bans one, and then
And then there's another one.
making
Yeah.
another one. So
Right.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
so that's just one example, the air pollutants as well. And there's been some studies that lupus is more common in areas of high congestion where there's a lot of these particles in the air from smog and car exhaust, and so we're looking at that as well. It's tough because again, you have to know not just where people live, but where do people work, and what other exposures, might they have near their neighborhood? Because there's a lot of environmental injustice going on with well water contamination and other things that are, being dumped, and no thought about someone who might be using a well for their drinking water,
Exactly.
when they're spraying their golf
Bringing
clubs or whatever, whatever they're
exactly
doing.
with
Yeah.
chemicals to keep them green all year and not
Yeah.
considering, what
So
what
those pesticides and herbicides for sure have an effect on the immune system. There's no question at all. It's just that, we don't know how all of these things in mixture, have an impact, and then also what to do about it. You don't
yeah,
want to tell someone go live in a bubble,
right,
but
right.
it would be nice to
We
have some
almost did for
advice.
the last year, and people are breaking out of it, right? So it doesn't really work. You tell them, but they're not
Right,
saying it.
right.
They're not going to like it. Yeah. Yeah. So then what would you tell them? I mean, if we've said all these ways that we're still trying to figure it out. We don't yet know what causes lupus. It can manifest itself so many different ways. Different parts of the body could be attacked. Autoimmune diseases, there are so many different kinds. So we need to screen out those. When someone just says it's just this or that, we still need to ask for certain types of tests. But is there just something we could do? If someone says, well, no, thank God, I've never been told I have an autoimmune disease and I don't want to get one. I don't want arthritis. I don't want lupus. I don't want any of this stuff y'all have talked about. As a woman, what could I do that might help me prevent this from happening? Is there, kind of a little list of what you would encourage women to do?
So you touched on a lot, the diet issue, and following a healthy diet that doesn't have a lot of the processed foods, a lot of the wrapped, pre-packaged foods. That we know is important. How much, again, like how much impact it would have by itself, we're not sure, but also combining it with getting outside, but not getting sunburned. So some vitamin D we know is important, because the fact that we're all like inside so much more and we're really not, making our own vitamin D like historically, our ancestors would have had plenty of. We're seeing a lot of vitamin D deficiency. We know that impacts the immune system as well. So just thinking about that, if you're not someone who is outdoors to some extent, like 20, 40 minutes a day, getting your vitamin D level checked and taking a supplement of vitamin D. We know smoking is a big risk factor. So avoiding tobacco smoke, and actually we've looked at children growing up in a home where there's smoke, secondhand smoke,
Right.
are at higher risk of developing lupus as teenagers and adults. So even having smoking in the home is something to be avoided for sure. Dusty jobs or working with solvents. There's been like one study that showed, people that worked with acetones, nail technicians and nail salon work, just being really careful with exposures to those kind of chemicals, like not, to take as many precautions as possible. And then, a lot of the other things are still open questions, like how much seafood from highly contaminated areas of our coast is too much. Because we know that there's going to be some of that. As a matter of fact, every single person who had blood levels checked had some of these perfluorinated compounds, these contaminants in their blood. So, but we don't have a threshold amount. How we know in pregnancy to avoid certain seafood because of the mercury.
Mercury,
Yeah. So
don't
but
have
we
it
don't
for the
really.
bees and all of that yet.
Yeah. We don't really have that same kind of data to support other contaminants other than mercury.
So that's a great list, and I think an easy list if we want to do it. Now, for Gullah Geechees, the going outside sounds great until it gets too hot. right? Or there's
Uh-huh.
too many mosquitoes, and then we're like, oh no, gotta get back inside, get on that screened in porch or something. But it's always good, and taking a walk outside, go out to the beach or wherever along the
Mhm.
marsh, and no, y'all say the marsh is really where the mosquito at. So go to the beach because you probably get a breeze off the ocean. But definitely
Yeah.
and breathing in, where you can go where there's fresh air, because that's so critical now, finding places where there's fresh air
Yeah,
because of
yeah,
what you talked about. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. And then afterward, having a nicely, I know y'all like for had and fish fry, but y'all yeti when we say the snout, you gotta be careful where that fish coming from and what they in them. So definitely we got to be careful about what we are ingesting, because that has an impact on how our whole body is functioning. And we especially don't want our immune system to attack us. It
Yeah.
is supposed to protect us, not attack us. So, Dr. Di, once again, folks can find you at musc.edu/lupus, lupus,
Mhm.
Lupus. And I know during May, you're going to be out there making people even more aware and everything. What is this thing called lupus, and God willing how we can work together and people can donate and contribute and be able to support efforts to getting a cure for this, and so that people
Yeah.
can be healthier, and that this could be one more thing we don't have to deal with. But are there any final words of inspiration or encouragement, since this is Women's Her Story Month, that you just have for the ladies in general?
Yeah, no, that's gosh, you'd think I wouldn't be speechless. All I can think is we'll have lots of purple swag available in May. So maybe we can get your supply of purple swag back up, Queen.
Yeah.
And then I think the more we communicate on forums like this, and really learn from each other, because there's probably questions that we don't even know to ask.
Mhm.
um, Actually looking at drinking water, we didn't even know to ask that. That was coming out of community feedback where they were like, have you thought about looking at the well water?
Yeah.
No, we hadn't.
Mhm.
So that was one of the more recent things that we started studying. So the more we all talk to one another, it's just a beautiful thing. I mean, I think we're going to get there eventually where lupus is something, either we're able to prevent it and start seeing rates go down, which would be wonderful, or at least we'll be able to catch it so early people can just live normal lives, without it being such a detriment and really bringing people down like it does now.
Absolutely. And I thank you for doing all you can to bring people up instead of down, for sure. And we appreciate you and appreciate everybody in the medical community, and especially at MUSC, for sticking in there, fighting it through, educating us even in the midst of the pandemic. As I wrote you many times and told you, we were uplifting all of you in prayer, wanted all of you to stay safe
Much,
and healthy. So we appreciate you so much.
that
Uh,
meant a lot.
Yes, yes, you all mean a lot to us, because you didn't jump ship, you didn't quit your jobs. You stayed in there, you hung in there, and we know it was not easy, and the pandemic's not over, people. It is not over. So we got to continue to, unfortunately, distance ourselves, continue to wear your mask, but keep
Mhm.
on what not unfortunately keep washing your hand. Because if
Right.
your mama didn't raise you to do that in the first place, I need to be talking to her next on this show. So y'all should be continuing to do that, so that we don't spread the communicable diseases, but also take in that peace and that joy and that laughter. You've heard us laughing even in the midst of this discussion today. It's so important. That laughter is that kind of medicine for the soul. It'll keep that heart healthy. And take some time, go out there, just breathe in, do some yoga, do some walking, do some things you love, sing, dance. Even if you don't dance too well, if ain't nobody watching, it don't matter. Just going out there, and enjoy the outdoors. We're now in the spring, and it's that
Mhm.
time for renewal. But sometimes I know the body doesn't feel like it can do it. It doesn't feel like I can't do this today. What is going on? Well, don't be afraid to talk. Like Dr. Di just said, Dr. Diane Caiman said, we got to talk. And I know for women, we've been taught to just kind of be quiet, especially
Mhm.
when we're in the presence of medical folks, because you think they know everything. She just told you they didn't know. They didn't think to know.
Not at all.
We right, we just spent a year of DIY medicine and we're still in it with the pandemic. So don't think of the autoimmune diseases as any different. There could be something you could
Mhm.
say that could be
Yeah.
just what they need to be the key to discovering what causes it and therefore how we can eradicate it. So don't be afraid to talk to the medical professionals and
Yeah.
say to them, this is what I ate. This is what I normally do. My mama used to do this. My grandmama used to do this, but they didn't have it. Now I have it, but I live in a different place they do. That could be the key. There could just be that slight little thing that could be the answer we've all been waiting for, that could change this autoimmune disease situation and actually end up healing the world. So, definitely, ladies, we can talk, but let's talk for the right reasons. Let's speak up for our health because, as I said at the beginning, your health is your investment in your wealth because that is your initial goal to get your goal. If you ain't well, where's it gonna go? To the doctors anyway, right? I'd rather have it come to me. And then maybe we can go out and do some of this fun stuff out here on the coast, you see. So definitely I'm so happy to have Dr. Diane Caiman here with me again. Looking forward to when we can get together in person again, of course, and for us to be part of all these celebrations. And I'm looking forward to the day that we celebrate an end to autoimmune disease and also where we can just all get back together and give some embraces to one another. But in the meantime, we wish all of you a happy Women's Her Story Month and continue to focus on your health and invest in your wealth. Stay safe, stay healthy, and be blessed. Peace and blessings, everybody.